All right, good morning. Let's get our Facebook groups in here. Can start the ball rolling. All right, good morning, everybody. I am Nick Kendell. It's time for an episode of Broncos for Breakfast. That's what the hat says. Pay no attention to the pet fur on said hat. I am running solo this morning. Scott is on his way driving down to Mobile, Alabama to cover the Senior Bowl with Mile High Huddle's own Chad Jensen. So it'll just be me today, and you guys will have to bear with me. Got a cold from daycare, so not a lot of sleep this weekend. My guy just had his 1-year vaccine appointment on Friday, so he was already not feeling very good. Got some sort of upper respiratory infection that was severe enough that he needed an inhaler, and is popping teeth. So not a lot of sleep this weekend. On top of now, I have something going on, a little stuffed up and sore throat and small fever. But you know what? We're still here hanging out, doing the best we can. It's all you can ask for. And we're going to talk about the Broncos' brain drain today. The Broncos are really getting picked off here as of late, which is interesting. And we have two official moves, one that's pending, and two more that there's whispers could be on the horizon for the Broncos. And that doesn't even include some positional guys that might be hopping to and from with these other moves. So we'll see what happens here. But Denver is we're in a good spot. It's unfortunate because we have not had like great success yet. Like we have not had a run like the Lions or the Bills or the Chiefs or the Eagles or anything. And yet people must really like what Sean Payton's cooking because, man, people want this Sean Payton offense, it seems. I think it's the Ben Johnson success to some extent, and it's Denver maximizing Bo Nix. I don't know if this is a shot at Bo Nix, or they just really like what they did with Bo Nix from college. I don't know, but people like this, obviously like the system in Denver right now because people are wanting that across the NFL. So Sean Payton, for a while, he was a little bit insular. Not a lot of offensive minds branching out. You had Lombardi fail pretty well in with the Chargers and stuff, but no, man, people want this Sean Payton tree right now. It seems to be what people prefer over the McVay Shanahan stuff, at least this cycle. So we'll see how that plays out. But let's say hello to everybody in the chat again. We'll probably go about half an hour today, unless the super chats are killing it, because I'm dealing with a cold. On that note, let me blow my nose here real quick. I didn't mute. We're back. Didn't want to blow my nose right into the mic. I don't think that would be very fun. Unless you guys are into it. I'll do it for super chats. But appreciate everyone coming in. We got Jeremy. Good to see you, Jeremy. Says, morning, boys. Why do we get poached and no one raids Kansas City? I hope we get Rizzy. I don't know why people aren't. I mean, Kansas City did get raided, right? You had Nagy hopping around for a bit. Ballard also to the Colts as well. To not great success for those guys. You had I'm not going to butcher his name, whoever just went to the Titans for their general manager spot as well. So there is some level of drain over in Kansas City. The big question is, like, why the heck has nobody hired Steve Spagnuolo from Kansas City? I feel like he's their, not even a wild card, but probably the most underappreciated aspect of this dynasty run for them. And he's not even getting interviews, which just does not make sense. I know that he didn't like absolutely kill it with the Giants, was it, for a bit? But I mean, what he's done with his defenses now that he's been in this Reed system for a bit, I would be very interested in hiring Spagnuolo if I was an owner looking to fill a head coach void. So that's one we need to manifest. There's New Orleans opening is still up. Let's get Spagnuolo buzz over to New Orleans. That would be great. David says Kansas City probably asked the refs to help not have teams poach them. Yeah, I don't know. Jeremy says I'm done rooting for the Bills whatsoever. Just got that loser stink on them. They can't wash off no matter what. Feel bad for Josh Allen, honestly. I mean, if that's the case, Jeremy, everybody in the AFC has that loser stink because it's just Kansas City every single time. So I get not wanting to cheer for them. And it's kind of unfortunate. I mean, every single player is different, an individual, but the big two draft splashes in the early rounds for the Bills the last 2 years have been Dalton Kincaid, who's just been miserable for them as a first-round tight end. There's like 5 or 6 tight ends taken after him who have been better. They traded up to get him as well. He's been terrible. If you have a big tight end who's essentially a pass catcher that doesn't bring a positive as a blocker, just freaking draft the wide receiver, right? If you're drafting a tight end for wide receiver things, take the wide receiver. Find a wide receiver who can block. They exist. But yeah, that's a Kincaid. And then also Keon Coleman, not really making much of an impact for them. Doesn't mean, again, Denver shouldn't look for offensive weapon early, but I think it's more to show that picking late in the first round, just because you are zeroed in on a position, does not equate to return on investment for that guy. We are not picking in the blue chip range of the draft anymore, those kind of picks. So to assume that, pick 20, you're automatically going to get a plus player at wide receiver, tight end, running back. There's no guarantee. The further you get from number one, the more randomness and variance you have there. So I do feel bad for Josh Allen. And again, as soon as Benford went down, they lost Taylor Rapp out there. Bishop obviously didn't look like he was ready for them. I mean, I don't want to blame the refs or anything, but it's just unbelievable how many breaks, those 50-50 breaks or those key player breaks, end up falling towards Kansas City. It's improbable at this point. I mean, to win as many one-score games as they have in a row, obviously improbable. So very tired of that, but I mean, credit to them as well. I hate them. I guess I respect them. I'm just tired of them. We got Richard coming in saying, good morning. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. We got Roy Osborne as well saying, good morning, Nick. Need Lion Coffee to soothe the show throat. Yeah. Shout out to Lion Coffee. It was Patrick's birthday yesterday. So shout out to you, Patrick. Still hot, but good. Yeah, definitely need it. People are pissed. Yeah. 2 years ago when the Eagles played the Chiefs, that was the first Super Bowl since 1997. I didn't watch. And that's because I was sitting on a beach with no cell phone service on the west coast of Big Island in Hawaii. I wish I could do that again. Much more enjoyable than watching Kansas City again. So I don't know. Maybe I'll go out on a hike or something. Maybe there won't be as many people out there. We got Adam Strange says, what's up, Broncos Maniacs? Go to see. Yeah, G-Pick. Chiefs. Wah, wah, refs. Wah, wah. I mean, respect at this point. They're killing it. And what's crazy about the Chiefs is that Mahomes went from this crazy gunslinger making all these plays to like one of the most hyper efficient quarterbacks of all time. And I mean, shout out to Andy Reid for doing that, but Mahomes, the development, the change, the evolution, whatever you want to call it, to this level of quarterback, I think I saw it was a 99th percentile game for a pass game success rate. They were just hyper efficient, and it's pretty darn remarkable to see what Mahomes is doing. Now, that said, I don't really think the Bills defense is all that good, especially losing 2 of their 5 key secondary players. But yeah, no, I mean, you can only play who's in front of you. So yeah, shout out to the Chiefs. It's they're a darn good team, and they're going on an unbelievable roll right now. Historic. We got Chase coming in, says BFB, great to see you. Hope you're doing well. Michael Ronquillo says, good morning, Nick. I'm Broncos for breakfast. We got him a few times here. Hope you're doing well. Always appreciate you. You guys are all killing it. And yeah, let's get into the brain drain here for the Broncos. So we have 2 official new moves for the Broncos. We got Broncos tight end coach Declan Doyle going over to the Bears to be the offensive coordinator underneath Ben Johnson. So I will be curious to see what the role is for Declan out there in Chicago. Obviously, Ben Johnson, really renowned. People really wanted him for a couple cycles now, and he goes to the Bears over the Raiders, which is great, although I think Pete Carroll's a good hire for the Bears. But Doyle, up-and-coming player, or a coach, interesting enough, he is the son of infamous strength and conditioning coach, a long time of the Iowa Hawkeyes, Chris Doyle, who was fired, dismissed for the lawsuit for bias against minorities in the Iowa program. And a lot of it was pinned on Doyle in the strength conditioning. So he was then hired by Urban Meyer, and that caused a lot of people to be upset that he was fired before the season even started. So there's some interesting background there with the Doyles. But Declan, obviously on Peyton's staff, tight end coach, and quick rise for Declan, who's just 28 years old. He's younger than me. Gosh darn it. That is unbelievable. But yeah, shout out to him. Declan, he will be out there with the Bears. And also potentially happening here. Hasn't happened yet, but it's been all over the web. Broncos pass game coordinator John Morton has been interviewed by the Detroit Lions and is a strong candidate for the position to replace Ben Johnson. So you got a little bit of, I don't know if this is the right word, insular stuff going on with the Sean Payton offense here. Obviously, Campbell, Ben Johnson, but Joe Brady, I guess, as well as one you could talk about. And we'll see if he ends up going to the Saints. If he does, we're going to talk about another Bronco who might be jumping ship there. But you got Joe Brady out there as well. But now you have Morton heading off to the Lions. So teams that are starting to really take this Sean Payton offensive approach, tenets, philosophy, whatever you call it. Obviously, the Broncos, you have Sean Payton, but you got the Bears now, you got the Lions, and you got the Bills / wherever Joe Brady goes. So it's a good thing. I guess you're going to have a lot more options at coaching staff to replace people and bring up people going forward because there's going to be a lot more of the key principles, language, offensive install. Obviously, everybody has their own variants and twists, but that's what you're looking for right now. And I got Jason coming in here saying Morton left too. He hasn't left yet, but it sounds like he's the heavy favorite to be the next offensive coordinator out in Detroit to replace Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson to the Bears. Ben Johnson takes Declan Doyle with him as well. So a lot of rating happening there, as Jess Canady says. But yeah, that is something that we're going to follow here going forward. Obviously, you also have Mougey to the Jets. So Darren Mougey, a general manager, a long-time Broncos front office guy, came up with Elway, was a scout for the team and worked his way up to being George Paton's right-hand man. And now he's off to the New York Jets to turn over just a really terrible franchise. Let's be honest. Will Johnson, the owner there, Woody Johnson, excuse me, has been horrible, way too meddling. And we saw it with the last general manager. We had the Deanna Rossini article coming out mid-season saying that the former Jets general manager felt like he was answering to a teenager, and that talking about the Johnson family and just not a very stable position. But it is one of 32, and you got a chance to make a name for yourself and make a lot of money with those opportunities when they present themselves. So I don't fault him waiting for that, not waiting for a position when it offers himself. But you also have Mougey jumping over. So another void on the Broncos, unfortunately. And fortunately, I mean, again, this is a good problem to have. I'm a little bit bummed / annoyed that it's happening so early on the Broncos' path to success. Right now, again, you've had teams that have been great for years and years and years, and it doesn't feel like they've been rated / picked to the Broncos as the Broncos have to the same extent, who just finally made the playoffs. Well, first year of success in a long time, and now everybody's like, I want some of that sauce from Denver. Luckily, we do have the main guy in the head honcho, I guess, for the scheme and the philosophy there. But that is it's unfortunate. I was hoping for a little stability this offseason, and it does seem like there's going to be not anything, but not much stability going on there for the Broncos coaching staff. Pearl says, then who do the Broncos get? We don't know yet. Hiring internally, bringing somebody from the college ranks. Don't have any idea the connections there as who they might bring in, but we're going to be keeping an eye out for that, no doubt. Fallen Sauce says, good morning, Broncos country. Stuck home while I shake off a cold today. I'm here with you, Fallen Sauce, also with a cold. So I'm glad to have some Broncos for breakfast to pass the time. Yeah, good to see you. Pull up tissues, lozenge, whatever you want to do, and we'll hang out and talk. We got Money More coming in. So if coaches are poor, they get fired, and if coaches are good, they get poached. Then where's the consistency? The consistency is having a coach who has been a head coach multiple times get fired, and then nobody wants to hire him. Steve Spagnuolo. That's there's not a lot of consistency, but I'm just surprised it's so early in this Broncos team building pathway that they're at right now that teams are just really poaching them early. It feels like it's a year early. Like if Denver would have gotten like where the Commanders got this season, then be like, oh man, and Bo Nix took another step forward, have a top 10 offense next season. Then I'd be like, oh yeah, everybody, Sean Payton's cracked the code for whatever defenses are doing right now. Go get that guy. It feels like a year early, but better a year early than late, I guess. And we'll see how it translates going forward. Saints fan comes in and said, who do you think is the second best coach in the division? I think Sean is second because he was coach of the year finalist and Jim wasn't. Sean and Reed calls plays and Jim and Pete don't. I don't know. I guess I'll be biased and say Sean Payton, but I really like what Jim Harbaugh brings to the table as far as the physical brutality. But Sean Payton does that too. But I mean, Harbaugh's won everywhere he's went. Sean's main success came with the Hall of Fame head coach. So I think Jim has a higher floor, if that makes sense. But Sean is pretty darn good. And again, league is obviously telling you they like what Sean's doing with how much they're taking Broncos coaching staff right now. So like them both. I mean, Pete Carroll's incredible too. The issue is Pete's 73, but yeah, the AFC West is unbelievable in coaching staffs right now. It's pretty phenomenal. It does not get easier. And yeah, Denver with all this brain drain. I know everybody, the arrow's pointing up, but Denver could have a better team next season, have a little less injury fortune, and end up with the same record and missing the playoffs. I mean, it's just that's how it breaks sometimes. So we'll see. They could still be heading in a positive direction, but you might reach a little stagnation, slipping while the trend line's still pointing up. We'll see. One game at a time, one season at a time. We'll see what happens here. Talking again about rumors, I guess, with the coaching staff and the brain drain. So we talked about Morton. We talked about Doyle. We talked about Mougey. There are two other coaches that names are out there as possibly making a move. These are just rumors at this point. So again, I'm just putting it out there. Nothing substantiated, but the Saints opening is still there. It sounds like Joe Brady's the favorite. Again, we're talking Sean Payton's staff. I wonder if Joe Brady would bring another Broncos coach over to be an offensive coordinator for him. I don't know, maybe Davis Webb. That's a name that has been linked to the Saints offensive coordinator spot if they hire Joe Brady. So keep an eye out for that. I know a lot of people, I think I saw in the chat too, be like, well, at least we still got Webb. I mean, maybe you fire and move on from Lombardi or promote him, or I don't know, something to keep Webb. But I do think teams, again, have seen what Denver did this season to really simplify and create a very positive environment for Bo Nix in the past game and a lot of the concepts and the window dressing that they used. Again, Bo Nix ran with it. Great for him. But I do think that teams also are saying that they liked what they did for the quarterback, which is a good thing for all sides. And I think there's a chance that Webb could be on his way to New Orleans to be on a Joe Brady staff if Joe Brady is hired there. So keep an eye out for that. There's smoke as far as Webb heading to join a Joe Brady staff, should it go that way. And Joe Brady coming from the Saints out there with LSU for a while. Again, that's his tree. You're going to want to bring somebody from the tree. I think that you want to really keep an eye out for Webb with the Saints as the offensive coordinator, which stinks for Denver for stability, but that's one that we want to keep an eye on. The other name that has been linked a lot that I would not be surprised to see lose the Broncos staff. I asked around on this one, no names on this one. I'm not going to reveal any sources, but it does seem like Jim Leonard might be on his way out as well. There was some chance there for a little bit that Denver might lose Vance Joseph when the Jags position came open again. Saints is still open. Raiders kind of missed on Ben Johnson, but it does seem like Vance will be back, blocking the path for defensive coordinator for Jim Leonard. And Jim Leonard has been linked. Again, this is all just through the grapevine, but you guys are in here. It's rumor season, so we can talk about it. Jim Leonard has been linked with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish defensive coordinator opening. We will see if anything comes of that, but obviously Al Golden jumps, like announced as soon as the game is over, national championship's over for Notre Dame getting pummeled by Ohio State. They made it a game. But he jumps to the Cincinnati Bengals, and it does sound like Leonard is a heavy favorite right now for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish defensive coordinator opening. I mean, a lot of talent there. Notre Dame's recruiting at a high level, and Leonard was an unbelievable defensive coordinator for Wisconsin for a number of years, and got that Midwest physical defensive back work with Marcus Freeman as well. So those are two more names. Webb, some under the surface linkage to the New Orleans Saints offensive coordinator opening, play calling potentially as well. We'll see what Joe Brady wants to do. And Jim Leonard to Notre Dame. That will be interesting to follow for the Broncos, without a doubt. Not exactly great for Denver, but also it's just a reality of success for this team and coaching success. I mean, shout out to, again, Payton for identifying, developing, accumulating coaching talent. That is something that bodes well for the Broncos long term. Maybe short term, maybe next year, you have a dip because you're having guys being pulled away, but you still have the guys here who identify the talent and develop the coaching talent per se. So shout out to them. We'll keep an eye on that. Other than that, moving forward, I want to say hello to some people in the chat. We're getting a lot of not super chats. You guys need to be helping me out here with some super chats. Chad's going to cancel me. He's driving down to, probably watching right now or listening, driving down to Mobile. Chad, don't cancel me. People love my nasally cold voice. Adam Strange comes in and says, what positions besides tight end and running back is good at 20? We are 90 days out from the draft still. Denver is currently picks 20. Who knows? They trade up, they trade down. And there's just so many things that can happen, not only between now and draft day, but pick 1 to pick 20. So I think it's easier to look at the Broncos, especially the free agency yet to happen. Looking at the Broncos roster, there are a lot of spots where a first-round position could make an impact for this team, both in 2025 and the duration of the rookie contract. Obviously, tight end and running back, those, along with linebacker, are the biggest immediate holes on the roster where like Denver has to add talent. Hopefully they address it somewhat before the draft. Honestly, they don't have to address running back before the draft. It's deep enough. They're going to have a chance to add it. But I think they need to bring in a tight end to raise the floor, and they definitely need to bring in a linebacker to that room as well to pair with Singleton, who's got 1 year left and is a tempting contract to move on from. But those positions all stand out along with wide receiver, of course, interior defensive line, and safety. Free agency is going to change this, but right now, Singleton / Drew Sanders should not prevent you from upgrading linebackers. You're set to lose DJ Jones in free agency, and you're going to lose all 3 of your next snap getters in 2026 as it stands. Safety, PJ Locke was not very good. He limits what you can call defensively because he's not a very good athlete. He's a good depth player. You probably are looking to upgrade from PJ Locke. Wide receiver, Troy Franklin and Devon Vele. You're happy to have those guys in here. I don't think either of them should keep you from adding talent at the wide receiver position. Cortland Sutton set to be a free agent after 2025. Marvin Mims looks more gadgety than like actually in-route progression-based offense wide receiver. So wide receiver has to be on the table as well. Those are the spots that stand out for me, Adam. Best player available. I mean, we'll talk about Daniel Jeremiah's mock here in a bit. And we're talking about free agents as well. I would love Broncos to make a splash at Chris Godwin. I think he's going to be very expensive, maybe a little bit more expensive than I'd be willing to pay, especially if T. Higgins is retained. We'll see what happens. I think there's some comments with the Raiders potentially being of interest with Godwin, the Panthers with Canales out there. Maybe the Jags want to spend money to follow him with Liam Cohen. He was awesome with Liam Cohen this season, so maybe he'll follow him to Jacksonville. There's going to be competition for Godwin. He'd be a great fit for Denver. If Higgins is re-signed, I think Godwin's probably going to get overpaid. This is another reason that I want to pay draft wide receivers. The open market wide receivers get paid unbelievable freaking contracts right now. So you get crazy cost control with a first round or a draft pick investment at wide receiver compared to the open market. I mean, remember what Jerry Jeudy got? Remember what Calvin Ridley? Jerry wasn't even open market, but he got a second contract. Remember what Calvin Ridley got? Horrible, terrible. I don't know. I think you draft wide receiver if you can. Pay tight end on the open market. It's not a good tight end class, but again, you're just the economics of it. The wide receivers, you want to be careful about paying those guys on the open market. Ernie Mays coming in and says, hello, Broncos country, Bo Nix 4-6. The referees are changing the outcome of the Chiefs game. Is what it is. We got Javon Holland talking here as well. He'd be interesting. He's really young, only 25 years old, I think. So he'd be awesome coming off at a down season. But pairing him back with Jones would be great and give Denver a lot of options in the backfield. I think it'd allow them to call a lot of different stuff for the defense as well. More split field stuff. I think PJ Locke was a poor enough athlete out there in space that they didn't want to give him the half field reads. I don't know if they trust him to cover it. And he's struggled in man coverage as well. There's always going to be areas in the roster that were limited this year, given the lack of money to spend and the lack of draft capital over the last 3 years. Safety and linebacker, the two there. Those are spots now that Denver should hopefully be able to address somewhat in free agency and everything. Quentin Caldwell, great to see you. Appreciate you coming in here, hanging out with us. Great to see Pearl as well. Godwin's hurt too much. He's hurt less than T. Higgins, but people want to pay T. Higgins $35 million a year. So I think if Godwin gets paid a shorter term deal, I wouldn't mind it. The thing I love about Godwin, he's a dirty work player. He will block every single rep out there on a drive, or do all the dirty work and let a lot of other people get the stats. And he's got no problem doing that. I love players with the physicality and tenacity when the ball is not going to them. The ones who are, give all out effort when they're the primary read, and then if they're running on the opposite side or have to block, kind of give half-assed efforts. Miss me with that. I don't care if you're super talented. That's a consistency, doesn't have the dog in them conversation for me. And Godwin has that dog in them without a doubt. So I love him a lot. I saw a comment coming in here. Who's all leaving on the defensive line? Denver right now is only set to lose DJ Jones on the defensive line, but you are 1 year away from losing all 4 of your top stat getters. Zach Allen's gone after 2025 as it stands. I think he'll be resigned. Jonathan Franklin Myers is set to be a free agent after the season, after 2025. And Malcolm Roach is set to be a free agent after 2025. You do not want to be in a position next season where you have to replace 3 or 4 defensive linemen all at once with no options already on the roster. If Denver does that, 2026 might be a wash. I mean, I don't think you can turn over the defensive line that much, especially not with draft picks. Defensive line takes, unless you're talking blue chip guys, they normally take a year or 2. So similar with offensive line. So you do not want to have that be now it's a problem, let's fix it. If it's already a problem on the trenches, it's going to remain a problem. So that's one area you want to be preemptive with the lines of scrimmage. They are developmental positions. But talking about the draft, pick 20 overall, did want to give Daniel Jeremiah a shout out coming in here with his first mock draft 1.0. I encourage you guys to check out Daniel Jeremiah's mocks. He always has some interesting tidbits, guys being higher or lower on his mocks. I know everybody's favorite for the Broncos right now, Tyler Warren, Penn State tight end. Where does Daniel Jeremiah have him going? 7 overall, folks. I don't think if your draft hopes and dreams are reliant on Denver getting Tyler Warren at 20, you might as well, your hopes and dreams might as well be Denver trading a 7th round pick for Patrick Mahomes. No, I don't think it's that crazy, but if things are trending that way right now, you probably need to start managing expectations and looking elsewhere, because Tyler Warren's moving up. The offensive tackle class is lesser this season. The wide receiver class at the top is lesser this season. The quarterbacks at the top are lesser this season. What does that mean? Tight ends, I think, are getting pushed up a little bit. Also, I'll call it recency bias, but with how Brock Bowers played his rookie season, teams are looking for other avenues to add talent. Bowers is the outlier of outliers at the position. I don't think it's replicable what he's done. But Tyler Warren rising here, going 7 overall in this mock draft. You guys need to think of options other than Tyler Warren if he's being mocked that early. Continuing here, other guys that kind of stand out. Interestingly, interesting Broncos, Ashton Jeanty to 12 overall to the Cowboys. If he falls past the Cowboys at 12, I think we got a chance for him to slip. Dolphins will be interesting to see. Cardinals will be interesting to see with him. But after that, I mean, he could slide, guys. So we're keeping an eye out for that with Jeanty. Jeanty is super talented. I think the reason you might see him slipping a little bit is because this running back class is so deep and talented. Jeanty had a lot of carries. He's not Saquon Barkley as a prospect. I don't think he's Bijan Robinson as a prospect either, but he's definitely a first-round, top 10 graded player, any draft kind of guy, getting devalued because of the position. So if he was like a same caliber player at, let's say, wide receiver, he's getting first overall love. But that's not where he's at. So that's he's somebody who could be there. If not Jeanty, who's next? If you're talking running back, I think for the Broncos, the next guy up would be, it depends what you want. They kind of run a system with a 1A and a 1B back. They like somebody who can bang a bit between the tackles, and they like somebody who's got a little bit more explosiveness out of the pass game. I think the two different styles there, the next up would be Omari and Hampton from North Carolina, more of the David Montgomery sledgehammer type, or Travion Henderson out of Ohio State, assuming he's healthy. He'd be a little bit more of the Gibbs type of back, really good out of the backfield, good pass protector. Probably not somebody you want getting 20-plus carries, but can get 15 touches a game and make the most of them. Caleb Johnson's out there too. I think Caleb Johnson's probably a better zone running back, outside zone based, mid zone based. Somebody like the Vikings or the Browns stand out for me with Caleb Johnson. But I think Hampton and Henderson are the two guys I would keep an eye on for the Broncos. But Daniel Jeremiah's mock, interestingly for the Broncos, he's got them going safety, guys. We're talking PJ Locke earlier, not really a good starter. You want a little bit better there. Denver, obviously, free. If they pay a safety big money on the open market, they're not going to probably go draft a safety as well. But as it stands, Denver has a need at safety. You got Nick Emmanwori from South Carolina. Nick Emmanwori is a absolute freak as far as a weapon, an athlete. He's 6'3". He moves extremely well. He's just a really rare mover out there. Almost looks like kind of like a creative player sometimes with how big he is compared to his movement skills. And apparently he is going to test amazing. Let me see. Nick Emmanwori. I should have pulled this up beforehand, but I know he was on Bruce Feldman's freaks list this season. He's supposed to test insane across the board for at the combine for how big he is. 6'3", 227 pounds, broad jump of 11 foot 4 inches, vertical jump of 42 inches, being clocked running up to 23 miles per hour. Extremely strong as well, squatting 565 pounds and doing 24 reps of 225 pounds. I mean, this is just a freak athlete. Now, with that said, like, is safety the best allocation of resources for this team? Safety we saw last season was devalued. A lot of guys were being cut. Kyle Hamilton, no doubt top 5 pick a few years ago, falling to 14. Derwin James, special player, falling to, 12, whatever he was. Safeties are devalued, but that's why you're getting a guy like Emmanwori having a chance at pick 20. So keep an eye out for Emmanwori. He's very, very interesting. Also a note interestingly for this draft, you had Emmanwori going before Malachi Starks, the safety from Georgia, who many people pegged as the best guy. So, yeah, Emmanwori, very interesting player. Could give the Broncos a lot of options in the back end. If they don't end up drafting or paying a safety, instead they spend their money on a wide receiver and a linebacker and bring back DJ Jones or a Poona Ford or somebody equivalent, then you have a little bit of flexibility there with a safety like that. So we'll see what happens with that as far as Emmanwori. But he's a freakish athlete. And it's not just that he's a freakish athlete, but it's the size that he plays at too. I hate to be this guy. I hate small players. NFL is a big person league, and you can't build a team constantly drafting small players. And I think having length and whatnot and having some physicality and different guys first off the bus, there is a little bit of truth to that. They still got to be able to play, but just constantly drafting or propping up small guys, I think is a bad process long term. You don't want to be small, especially with how Denver plays, with how the teams are being built right now. Small is bad, unless you're an absolute freak athlete, and you can't just constantly draft small players. Denver's already a little small. I'm kind of starting to lean into this at wide receiver, but with Mims, you already have a small guy out there. But yeah, we'll keep it going here. We're going to wrap it up here pretty soon. Michael Ronquillo. Let me blow my nose. Thank you. Michael Ronquillo says, Nick, thoughts on Iowa tight end? He's getting buzzed at the East-West Shrine Bowl. Yeah, Luke Lachey, he has a really strong coming on 2 years ago as tight end to Sam Laporta at Iowa. And then he suffered a horrible ankle injury early in 2023. Didn't really get his footing under him this season. Looked like he was not 100% healthy. And Iowa had a shift in offensive coordinator, which good for the offense overall because, my God. But keeping an eye on how they do with utilization of tight ends and developing them, because this year, not great. Is Iowa going to lose their tight end development pedigree? I don't know. We'll see. But this year was not great. I think Lachey was underutilized, and he's a day 3 player, still all the same. But if he's healthy, if his ankle checks out, he'd be somebody I would be very happy to get 6th round. I don't think I'd take him in the 4th round right now, but 6th round, if he's there, I mean, Denver should probably double up at tight end, put a little pressure on the guys they already have. Jason comes in and says, Jihad Campbell. There's 2 A's in Jihad there, Jason. Number 1 in the draft. Jalen's probably an edge. Also, I don't know if I got this, Jason, but I love South Carolina safety Nick Emmanwori if Denver misses out on free agent safeties. Yeah, he's where I'm at right now. I know that, I'm kind of barraged on Twitter about it because I've been making jokes. 1st round tight ends the last 10 years have been horrible investments for teams outside of Brock Bowers. I mean, they've just been terrible draft chances, return on investment for the picks, even top 50 picks. It's been pretty much a desert out there when you look at the guys. And that's not to say the tight ends aren't important. That's more so to say that teams are shit, pardon my language, but terrible at evaluating tight ends. They don't know what makes a good NFL tight end from college. Is that probably just because how seldom tight ends are actually used in an NFL way in college, the white hash marks, the blocking. The NFL just can't evaluate tight ends. They also can't evaluate linebackers, really. So there's a lot of risk drafting tight end or linebacker early because the last 10 years, the data would say the guy that you take 80th overall is going to probably have about the same return on investment as the guy you take 20th overall. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. I mean, Denver took Noah Fant at 20 overall. That's actually okay return on investment compared to where early tight ends have gone. Like, and did Noah Fant really move the needle for you guys? Not for me. That's just kind of the landscape of tight end. Everybody wants this idealized tight end. And I'm not saying that Denver shouldn't be considering Warren or Loveland at 20, but again, history would say that that's not a guarantee. Far from it. Your floor is much, much lower for those positions. So yeah, we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, David says you need a first round talent for Bo, like a wide receiver, tight end, or running back. I don't think it has to be a first rounder. I mean, you've had 4 first rounders in Sean Payton's time in New Orleans, 2 wide receivers in Robert Meacham. Everybody remembers that name, right? Brandon Cooks added there. You also had 2 first round running backs in Reggie Bush and Melvin Ingram. He's done it, but his superstars on the offensive side of the ball have not been first round picks. Jimmy Graham, 3rd rounder. Marcus Colston, 6th rounder. Alvin Kamara, 3rd rounder. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody as well. Michael Thomas, 2nd rounder. It's just you don't have to go first round. I do think it's the probable course right now for Denver, but I think anybody painting it that Denver has to go this position at 20 is wrong in the process. You don't want to bypass better play. Let's say you end up taking a tight end here who ends up the 20th best tight end in the NFL. That's a horrible investment. And you bypass a wide receiver who ends up the 25th best wide receiver in football. That's good investment, actually, because you have a lot more wide receivers out there, and they're paid way more than tight ends. So there's always a balancing act there with that. Or let's say you take a running back there, Omarion Hampton, and you get 4 fine years from him, but there's 5 running backs to go after him in a deep class that have better careers. I think just probability-wise, that's true. Now, identifying who that is, we'll see. That's harder. But you're sitting there, we have to add a running back here for their offense. You bypass a safety or a linebacker or a defensive tackle, end up being an all-pro. Bad process. You can't be like this, especially before free agency, 92 days out with where Denver's at, this laser focus. I think it's bad process. And that's one shout out to Daniel Jeremiah as well. Every single freaking mock is Colston Loveland or Ashton Jeanty to Denver at 20. Okay. I mean, I get it. But that's not what mock drafts are for, really, right? We want to look at the different possibilities. What does it look like when we move these pieces around? What does that mean for the rest of the roster? Where can you find these other contributors? That's good. So I really like Amanda Worry going for Denver. Again, based on who was available at the time, I'm a little bit more interested. Maybe Matthew Golden. Haven't heard him linked to Denver at all, but he's interesting. Emeka Egbuka is interesting. Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M, absolutely freak athlete. You got Luther Burden out there as well. Those kind of guys. I mean, it'd be a conversation, no doubt. But those are ones that you want to keep an eye on for sure for the Broncos at 20. And I'm going to wrap it on up here, guys, because my voice is starting to hurt a lot. But appreciate you guys. I don't know what Adam Strange is saying here. Terrell Davis, ? With the upset face. I don't know if that's at me, but Terrell Davis, 6th round pick, I think. I'm not saying running backs don't matter. I'd be fine with a first round running back at 20 if it was Ashton Jeanty. But that said, we're so far out that we have to just think about the different possibilities and directions this team could go. So we'll see how that plays out. I see a lot of Emeka Egbuka talking here as well. He'd be interesting. I would not rule out Golden. I would not rule out Burden. I would not rule out A.O. Manor from Stanford as well. He's somebody who could work his way up to the top. So we'll see how it plays out, folks. We'll see how it plays out. I'm going to get on out of here, though. It's time. So, yeah, kind of a Denver Broncos brain drain happening here. We got Doyle heading off to the Bears, Broncos former tight end coach, the offensive coordinator there. Morton, the pass game coordinator, sounds like he's going to end up in Detroit. We'll keep an eye on that. You got Mougey going to the Jets. And then the other two to keep an eye on, again, mentioned it here since Vance Joseph is sticking around. It does seem like there's some Jim Leonard to Notre Dame talk. So we'll keep an eye on that one. And Webb, if Joe Brady goes to the Saints, I would keep an eye out for Davis Webb to the Saints as well. So we'll see what happens. I think I hear a baby screaming upstairs, so we'll see what happens with that. We will do a mock at some point. It might not be this week because of we have Chad and Scott en route to the Senior Bowl right now. We had official measurements, some official verified measurements come in. So that is awesome to see, and we're going to follow that. So it's here, draft season's here, but maybe we won't get one this week. It might be more so just covering the Senior Bowl because it's a really talented Senior Bowl this season. So appreciate everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Make sure you're following me on Twitter at Nick Kendell MHH. Also follow us at Mile High Huddle over on Twitter, X, whatever it is. Meta, Mile High Huddle, and Mile High Huddle Pod, Facebook.com. Subscribe, like, and share over on YouTube. We always appreciate that as well. And shout out to our star givers, Michael Ronquillo. Got Jasmine coming in here too. Good to see you, Jasmine. Appreciate you. Hope you're doing well. Always love hearing from you. Jason Bonnie as well, the $10 super. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today. A lot of fun. Oh, Jasmine coming in with the super sticker to close us out. God bless you. Hope you're doing well. Jasmine is pregnant, folks, in the chat. So shout out to her as well. Hope everybody is healthy and you're feeling well and getting taken care of and feeling all the support in the world. Kick your feet up. No health problems or anything like that. My wife and I had a tumultuous third trimester, but we're here. We got this far, and obviously you're going to get this far too. So appreciate you. Again, take it easy, and make sure you lean on the husband and the support system you have there because you definitely earn it and deserved it. Shout out to everyone. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Monday. Continue to choose kindness and compassion. I know it's hard out there these days. Easy to get sucked into the us versus them, but same boat. Everybody, it's one planet, one world, one race, right? Humanity. Appreciate everyone. Have a good one. Happy Monday. Go Broncos.